All right, welcome back to Realcomm Live. We are extraordinarily excited to be here and to have this group of people. Our format for Realcomm Live is morphing a little bit. We used to do live episodes on Friday, which we will probably do at some point. But we came to the conclusion that when we have these micro events with really smart people, that it just made sense to get them together and one after another get some of their brain onto film. And then we distribute it every Friday during the Realcomm Live episode. So I am so excited to be with these three people. I would consider you the nucleus of this event. Farukh, I'll start with you. Farukh Aslam, I would consider you a friend at this point. I think we met about 4 years ago, if I remember. We've been schlepping you around to events and you've been talking about your hotel. We finally decided it's time to see it. Give me a little of your background, your vision for the hotel, and why you're willing to take the risks to develop a DC-powered building.
First of all, welcome to Fort Worth.
Good to be here.
And I hope your stay so far is good. And I have had a tendency to ask this why question from an early age. And buildings, the electrification of buildings hasn't changed in 100 years. Yep. But the load has changed. It's gone from electrical to electronic load. From light bulbs, LED light bulbs, to a computer in an office or an appliance. They all have boards in them, the PCB boards, which are all DC powered. Yep. So these machines are becoming more and more DC powered. Yet nobody has challenged the infrastructure that has existed for 120 years.
Think of those billions of bricks
Correct.
That we plug into the wall.
I think I wanted to challenge that, seeing that a 10 watt, 8 to 10 watt light bulb in a hotel has an AC 110 volt power coming to it, which is unsafe to touch by your maintenance guy. And it's a very minute amount of power you need for typical decorative lights. Yep. And you're bringing such a big pipe to them, and you need licensed electricians to do it. And even if you want something goes bad, like this morning in one of our properties, some lights were not on. It took 3 days to get an electrician on site. It is frustrating.
Right. I mean, at a high concept level, you're saying more and more proliferation of these low voltage devices. We convert at the last minute into a clunky architecture. I mean, at a high level, it's no brainer. But we've got our work cut out for us. Hannah, I mean, you're there on the ground, speccing these projects, dealing with the return on investments, the technical options, the expenses. Give us a little of your background and your role in Sinclair Digital and where you think the next steps for this industry might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trained as an architect, and I started working, right out of college, actually with Farukh as his, architecture representative on a large construction project. So really got to see, from the ground up how buildings come together and how all these different disparate trades come together to make one beautiful project. It's really fantastic. And when we started looking at this electrical infrastructure, and it was so simple. I mean, architecture background, no electrical background, but it made so much sense. And the fact that someone that can be trained in a completely different field can look at something and understand it and start to design it and even install it and commission it, that's really powerful. I mean, you don't have to be trained as an electrician for 7 years to be able to do this.
Right.
And so my role now is to look at buildings that we do design services for and put together these systems that we work with, lots of different vendors, and design them the most intelligent, smart building possible with low voltage DC technology. And I'm in charge of all the design, commissioning, and support. And what we're seeing and what we've been seeing since 2017 is the trending for things to become more efficient and more cost effective. Yep. And it keeps coming down and down and down. And now we're even seeing our buildings that we go out to bid for being cost parity or less in some cases, when we're talking about turnkey from material to installation, which is the first time that we're really seeing that. So it is very exciting. I think it's a turning point for buildings, and we are seeing it in many projects that we're doing.
Once you hit that threshold of parity, everything changes.
Exactly.
Is it safe to say that you're one of the 5% in this country who's doing the volume of specifying for this type of building? I mean, are there many other Hannahs out there?
There aren't a lot, because where we live is in the middle of IT and OT, so electrical and technology, and there aren't a lot of people that do both.
Right.
And because we're using different technologies from all these different vendors, they're just not, we're in the middle. So there isn't people that are comfortable with doing both.
Right.
And so we really are in a very small percentage of people. I would say I might be so bold to say we're the only ones doing the scale that we're doing. There are people using the technologies in different parts and pieces, but nothing to the scale of what Farukh has done on projects and what we've done on some other projects.
I mean, the first challenge was IT and OT,
Yeah.
right, and getting those aligned, and now we got to get IT, OT, and power. That's another layer
Exactly.
of bringing disparate people together.
Hannah just answered that she, coming from an architectural background, learned how to install this technology. She literally learned how to install this technology. So her first year on the job, as we were installing lights, when you go back to Sinclair lobby, look in the ceiling, those small 2.5-inch lights. The ceiling was just painted white sheetrock. We would cut holes in it, in a painted ceiling. And she learned how to use a scissor lift, raise it up. The hole is cut, she'll fish a cable in there and actually connect the light and snap it into the ceiling. So she literally learned.
I think your part-time job is going to be a recruiter for engineering departments at every university in this country. We could use 1 million Hannahs. I mean, those are mad skills. Those are great skills. I'm so grateful that you are a female representing, and also your age group, that there's hope that we can get a lot of more of the younger generation engaged. It's exciting. It's redefining power, redefining buildings. I mean, that's exciting stuff.
My favorite picture of Hannah is on a 10-foot ladder. Her head is in the ceiling in an office building, and she's wearing a skirt, you know.
That's hysterical. All right, down to Luis. I mean, a Cisco background. Why don't you give a little overview of that, because I think that's the foundation, and then talk about your journey into Sinclair.
Absolutely. So I'm a veteran of Cisco for 26 years.
Wow.
Most of the time was spent in an R&D group at Cisco. And after the California energy crisis, we kind of developed this demand response protocol on the network. And that led us to see what was happening in buildings. And we realized that LEDs were about to come into the market. And the beauty of the R&D part is you get to look at what's the spirit, and you get to try out experiments.
Right.
And so one of the things we learned is that obviously LEDs are DC devices. They're, semiconductor. And the network was increasing in power, but it was increasing in power for totally different reasons.
Right.
And we kind of like cobbled the idea, well, what if we could power lighting in a commercial building because it has the highest density of occupancy in a building from a device perspective.
Right.
And sure enough, we were able to do it, and one thing led to another. And then one day I got a call from Farukh Aslam, because he had seen a video we did, and he started asking questions, and one thing led to another. And
Disruptive innovation sometimes has to happen from the outside.
Exactly.
And then you got to kind of push the industry. Yeah, I mean, this is not a new story. I mean, going back probably to the wheel, where people were used to doing, I love the kerosene light example. What they call it, innovator's dilemma, right?
It is a pure innovator's dilemma.
Right, right. So we've only got a couple minutes left. So we're only an hour and a half or so in. What's your first impression? I mean, with all those crazy smart people in that room.
It's great to see them all together. We know so many of the players, because it's a small world. You've been in this business a while, so you kind of know what's out there, but it's great to see everybody collaborating, pushing the industry forward, and hopefully we learn some things and we meet some people that might want to do it in their projects.
Well, the key is even people might think their competitors are not, because we are so early. By the time this thing gets unfolded and reconfigured, like I said, there's going to be new companies, merging of companies. But with the passion I've seen so far, they're all going to be involved some way, somehow.
Jim, one point I want to make is that we're at this point now where technology is adopted so quickly and growing so fast, as you pointed out at the beginning of the session. I'll borrow Farukh's statement that he's made before. We're just scratching the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
I mean, we're truly able to transform complete buildings.
So Farukh, you play two roles. You're the real estate developer in the hotel and other projects, and you are running Sinclair Digital. Put your developer hat on and look into the camera and tell the real estate community, the CEOs of real estate companies, development companies, service providers, why were you willing to take the risk, and why should they?
I personally don't see this as a risk. It's an evolution. I think this is a natural path it will go towards. Everything in our lives, you see such a technological advancement, but in the built industry, you don't see hardly any advancement. I think this is the steps that will take us in that direction.
Right. This is disruptive innovation.
Yes.
This is not for the faint of heart. This is for the warriors. We'll go through the adoption curve. We'll go through the hype cycle curve. But at the end of the day, this is going to win because it's physics, it's science.
Yes.
So, all right, thank you so much. We'll be looking for you on a Friday afternoon someday on Realcomm Live. So thank you again, Farukh and team, for everything you did to put this event together and sharing your brains and your successes and failures. And it's exciting times. It's so good to be along with you for the journey. So thank you.
Thank you.